After the success of Chandrayaan 3, India is preparing for Gaganyaan to send an Indian astronaut in space from Indian soil on an Indian rocket. I'm at the Indian Space Conclave and I have with me Mr. Thomas Pesquet. He's a French astronaut who flew on the European Space Agency flights and has more than a year's experience in space. And India and France are now partnering in Gaganyaan. So we talk about the French connection to the human space flight for India. Thomas, are you excited about Gaganyaan and India likely to become the fourth country to have independent access to space?
I'm super excited. I think India is taking giant steps and putting someone in space. It's incredibly difficult. It's incredibly challenging. I've seen it myself. The work it takes, the technology, but it's also incredibly rewarding. It inspires, the young generation. You can bring the benefits of the weightless research, exploration. I think India is on the cusp of something huge and is going to inspire the whole country.
Now, do you think the Indian 4 astronauts designate, are they capable of going into space? We had Rakesh Sharma going long ago in 1984, but with your experience and now France and India are partnering, do you think they would be good astronauts?
I'm sure they'll be good astronauts. I think their selection was very hard. I think they're very capable. I haven't met them. I'm looking forward to meeting and discussing, what it takes to go to space. Sometimes what's difficult is not what you think about. Sometimes it's the daily life. It's the small things, right? But I think they'll be prepared. I think it's not only them, but the whole teams of ISRO and other organizations across the country. So there's been exchanges, I know, in the domain of space medicine between CNES and France and ISRO and India. Hopefully we can take forward those exchanges, maybe also with the European Space Agency, and then work even more closely together in the future.
You spent more than a year in space. How did India look like from space to you?
It looked very big, to be honest. India is a big, huge country. And so I've taken many pictures of the world in general. I've taken many pictures of India. I remember the Brahmaputra Valley. I remember Bangalore at night, all the lights everywhere. So it's very spectacular. I'm sure those guys, when they go to space, they will look at their country, because that's what you do. You go to space, you take a step back, you get this view, you look at the planet, and then you focus on what you know and what you love, and that's what they will do.
See, before Gaganyaan, India also wants to send an astronaut, probably on an American ship, to the International Space Station, a place you have commanded, and that's likely to happen on SpaceX. You've flown on SpaceX. How good is the SpaceX, and how good are the new spacesuits by SpaceX? You also flew the Russian ones.
The Russian ones, yes, absolutely. I think it's great. I think what India is doing is the right thing to do. You want to build up, your own industry and do things on your own. But space is so big, it's so challenging, it's so vast that it always works in cooperation, right? Every country's been doing this. The ISS is the best example of peaceful cooperation between countries, and everybody's getting the benefits. And so I think it's a great idea that India is doing both at the same time, cooperation and also some independence. I think it's fantastic. SpaceX is really good. I flew on the Soyuz, which is a bit older design. Heritage, very reliable, very smart, very sharp. I mean, the Russian technology is great. Very safe. I felt very safe on the Soyuz. More than 200 flights without any problem. SpaceX, the Falcon 9 and the Crew Dragon is a bit more recent, a bit more new, less experience, but very, very sharp people, very clean, sleek design, very technological, state-of-the-art. So it's a difference, but in the end, the point is the same: safety of the crew. And I think they have it narrowed down to this, and they're doing a good job on both sides.
You're still very young. Would you want to fly with an Indian astronaut in Gaganyaan at some point?
I would love to, because as an astronaut and as an explorer, you like new things. You don't like to redo the same thing over and over again, right? You like new things. So I started my career with cooperation with Russia. I've spent a lot of time in Moscow, Russian technology, and then I shifted to different approach with SpaceX, California. More of a startup mentality, something very different. So I'm looking forward to experiencing something a third way of looking at things. I know India has their own way of doing things, which has been very successful. So hopefully in the near future, there'll be cooperation. Maybe one day I fly with an Indian colleague to an Indian space station or to an international space station or some other destination, who knows?
Absolutely. Now, there is one question I always ask astronauts, and which is becoming more relevant with now permanent presence on Moon and Mars being planned. How do you have sex in space and how do you procreate? Because if you can't procreate, how do you have permanent presence? And procreation needs sex. How do you do that in space?
True, it looks like a joke, but it's actually a real question. I think the mechanics of it will figure out, how to initiate, but then the problem is more the growth of a baby. We evolved on the ground, on the Earth, with gravity. That's what gives us strong bones, that's what gives us good muscle. So if you develop in weightlessness, then you would miss all of this. So I think that would pose some serious problems. Maybe on a planetary body, you have a little bit of gravity on the Moon, 1/6, on Earth, 1/3. So that could be done, but I think weightless, that would be very, very difficult to have a baby.
Excited about space, excited about humans going back into permanent habitation on Moon and Mars?
I'm super excited. I think there's never been a better time. Now everybody wants to go to space because people have understood the benefits it brings to society in all domains. So there's never been as many initiatives, countries, private actors, institutional, and also sometimes armed forces have also understood the importance of space. So now we're on the verge of going back to the Moon, but in a more sustainable way. We're going back to stay. We're going back to build a base that's going to be small at the beginning, like in Antarctica and some of the extreme places on Earth. But the point is to stay. That's what we've done on the ISS. First, you go and try to test your low Earth orbit, then you build bigger and bigger space stations. And now we've had people permanently in low Earth orbit around the Earth for more than 20 years. Next step is to bring that to the Moon, and then again to bring that to Mars. And one day there'll be a big international mission to Mars, and hopefully India is going to be part of it.
Thanks a lot for speaking to me.
Thank you.
So that was astronaut Thomas Pesquet, excited about the future of space, so excited that he wants to fly on Gaganyaan whenever it is ready, go with an Indian astronaut into space. India and France are all-weather partners. Satellites, rockets, and now human space flight. India and France going the next step together. With camera person Ashok Mahale in New Delhi, Pallava Bagla for NDTV.